Hey there, I'm Sebastian Leger, also known as Heflamoke in the scene. This is the Esports 2020 prediction video, which I simply make because around that time of the year, a lot of people always ask me, what is happening in 2020, what's going to happen, what is your opinion on this and that. And short of answering all those messages, I'll make a video. I should anyway take one out of the books of Gary Vee and produce a lot more content instead of always being behind the scenes. So that's maybe also one of my 2020 plans, to be a bit more vocal on a lot of things. Those that know me, you know me for mostly two things, which is being absolutely straightforward and honest. And the second thing is that I'm always very responsive. Short anecdote around that: when I was just a little shit in and around esports, I was very unhappy with the fact that people felt entitled, wouldn't answer your message, wouldn't take you seriously, in the sense that they felt better, much more important. And I'm glad that 15, 20 years forward, some of those roles have reverted, and well, I swore to myself always to answer every damn email, message, poke on social media, whatsoever, because a lot of people are out there, they're looking for help how to get into esports, grow in esports, or do whatever else in and around esports. And I believe one pillar of success for our industry is to share all the knowledge we had. We went through so much shit. If you go through the last 20 years, I think it's our responsibility to prevent a lot of those things to happen again, repeat themselves, other people not doing the same mistakes. So small little anecdote on the side. In 2017, I was also interviewed by the Esports Insider for my predictions for then the coming year 2018, and I just for fun read the article again, and I was right in, I think, most aspects. So I thought, why not make it a habit at the end of the year always to sum up what has happened, what are the developments, and what can people look forward to it. It's a very educational and very opinionated video. So with that being said, if you are easily offended, if you don't like cursing, or if you just don't like the truth because your little scammy, schemy company takes advantage of certain groups of people, or the mere fact that people don't know much about esports, then you probably won't like this video. And before I get started, I give you the chance to just fuck off. Goodbye. For those that stayed now with me, very simple, straightforward talks. I have on the screen, here to my right is my laptop, so I see it there. I have all the topics listed. There's no specific order to it. It's just, I took 20 minutes, thought, what are people interested, key points of the industry, and I'm gonna share a few anecdotes around it, some experience, and how it's going forward in 2020. Maybe some of them helps. I will later, if I find the time, timestamp this. So for those who don't have that much time, which is most of the people in business, maybe you can go forward and maneuver better through the video. So let's get started without losing too much of your time. Federations. Yes, this is a topic. I don't even know why this came to mind. In other years, I haven't put this much as a priority thing, but there's a reality we have to understand now. Every idiot out there can make a federation, okay? People think that federations are some sort of glorified governing body or anything like that, and scratch that thought. It's bullshit, okay? Every idiot can go out there, get the knowledge how to set up non-profits and local entities, etc., and then try to suck up to the higher level in order to get a recognition. So obviously we have in the world, we have the new GEF now founded with Tencent backing, we have Wesco, we have the IESF, etc. various sub-federations, regional federations, confederations, associations. Jesus Christ, shoot me dead. It's too much at this point, and my prediction forward is very simple. A lot more will be founded. Others will just subside because they didn't get the power play they wanted. They don't get the capital to sustain this, or often these federations, especially on country level, are just vehicles for certain individuals to do business. So they're not interested in growing, I don't know, Mongolia as a country. They just make that thing. And by the way, that was just a random country I named. I have no idea who is the Esports Federation of Mongolia. Either way, to sum this up, everybody in the world can make a federation. Not everybody has the stamina to actually see this through. Not everybody has the connections to tie it with the government and committees and gremiums and whatever you call it. So what's going to be determined in 2020 is who has the most power. I hope some of the bad seeds are getting weeded out, because if you look into the Olympics, a lot of those federations strive for nonsensical, insert random bad word, for example, recognition by the IOC, which is total nonsense. What we need is infrastructure, subsidies and proper support, education, organization. That's what esports needs in most of those countries, but instead they're flying to whatever crazy places and events, and they suck up to people just because they think if the IOC gives you like a little bomb on the head, you've done it. But you've not done anything for esports. In fact, the Olympics needs esports, not the other way around. Esports people, true esports people, and you can ask a lot of veterans, a lot of key players in the industry, those who actually have the power but often are not that vocal about it, they don't give a shit about the Olympics. Why would we care about the Olympics? It's a dying institution, highly corrupt, like most of the sports names out there. Doesn't matter which league or which association you want me to list. Full of scandals, full of a lot of capital going into little black holes somewhere, vote rigging and shoot me dead. And this is what we strive. Why don't we take the chance to build esports from scratch with all the things we have learned from media, entertainment, technology, and sports of the past, 50 years? Instead, we are trying to replicate and copy, and automatically with that comes the fact that we copy a lot of mistakes. We bring the same corrupt people, corrupt capital into esports, and that's what happens. So if we go for the Olympics or anything similar, they go by our terms, or they don't go at all, or we create it ourselves, no problem. That's definitely possible, and it has to come mostly from the publishers and the key stakeholders in the industry. If we go alongside with the Olympics, yes, sure, but they should not be the ones dictating the terms how we want to experience, live and breathe esports. Who are they? They're in no position whatsoever. They need us 5-10 years forward. They're happy about every digital assets they have, every streaming viewer they have, every revitalized sport, because, for example, it has a sports simulation as a parallel, whatever, fandom created from digital to analog space and forward. That's what they need, just like TV. So, as I said, stop the whole madness with the federation sucking up to the IOC. Olympics will come over time, and to be in a good position, don't sell us out, dear federations out there. In terms of who will be the biggest federation who will actually make a dent, I don't know. And honestly, I think nobody else out there knows. I just know a few of them have some good backing. I know a few of them have not used their backing in terms of how they spend it, etc. There have been also a lot of bad moves, bad representation, no results, embezzlement of money, bad quality of tournaments. Like, for example, the IESF tournament was just recently in the news because they had subpar technology, not proper accommodation for the players, etc. I think Team Russia even dropped out in protest of these things. How can that happen in 2019? But again, without naming something specific, there's a lot of good guys, but also a lot of bad guys. Trust me when I say federations will be a tool, and federations will be a bridge between government, politics, and the industry. But the ones who actually call the shots, and listen to this carefully, the ones who actually call the shots are the people in business with the capital, and first and foremost, the publishers. Okay? So work with federations, around federations, help federations, or protest against federations. Don't forget about where the actual power lies. It's not going to be with whatever national little federation. They can jump up and down as much they want until the day some government says like, these guys, they tell you how it's done. Until this day, they have not really any power, but they should be an important bridge. And I just hope that good people will be elected. I hope that there will be democratic structures within those federations, that we have a chance to weed out some of the bad individuals. Anyway, that's enough on this topic. So 2020 prediction in short, we will see. There has to be consolidation. Some powerful guys will come out, even though they have not really touched to esports, but let's see what they can do with powerful backing like Tencent and GEF or others. Let's see what they're going to do with it. It's really tough to make a precise prediction here. Mobile gaming, that's the next topic. Very easy. Mobile is growing all over the place in every region. And I know PC Master Race, woohoo, and esports was traditionally always consumed by PC, then later a bit consoles. We have the console games now flourishing, like FIFA, despite EA's, well, not very supportive approach in terms of esports, very restrictive in every regard. If you thought Riot is bad in terms of publisher policy, go try dealing with EA. Jesus Christ, right? It's a very tough business. But the bottom line is, mobile is growing. There's a lot of things that mobile publishers have to realize. Most of the mobile competitive games that could potentially become an esport are not really esports ready. We have, due to multiple softwares and devices, integrity issues such as cheating. We have issues in terms of bandwidth, broadcasting. The games most oftenly don't have observer modes, etc. These are things we had to learn the hard way over many years in, for example, PC gaming. Now in mobile, we go through the same evolution, and one would think that, oh, look, we had 15 years, 20 years of like PC gaming, going esports, and all the mistakes that were made, all the technology requirements and everything. And you would think they should know. But the reality is, for many of the mobile guys these days, it's about as new of a frontier as it used to be in, I don't know, 2005 and Counter-Strike, or 2010 and Dota 2. It's quite insane. So here I also call on all the people that interact now in the mobile space, try to project some of that professionalism. My predictions, very simple. Mobile esports, more titles, all the titles will grow, all the regions will grow, with a special focus on regions where the density of devices is much higher in terms of mobile than, for example, PC. Like in India, on average, these people have like, 2 smartphones per capita, but only 1 in 5 have a PC and 1 in 20 have a console. So naturally, this is a market we're gonna go for. South America, Africa even more, Middle East, India, Southeast Asia, heavy mobile targets, and in general the world goes mobile, so naturally we come with it. There's of course a lot of technologies that come now with it. The games will be better developed. 5G is coming out, even though I don't predict it's gonna have that huge of an impact, but it will have. So the bottom line is, I'm even myself involved in a few mobile projects right now. I used to be advisor to a few in the past, and I predicted the mobile boom a bit too early. I thought we would have achieved a lot more in 2019 than we have. But even though we're slower than predicted, we're still on track. Absolutely, there's no way around mobile gaming. And I don't even see it clashing with a traditional esports. There's no reason to not play Counter-Strike on a PC, and then you go outside, you at the bus stop or at the lecture with a boring professor, and then you will have a very similar genre just on your mobile phone. Even the devices will get a lot more compliant to what's required to have proper gaming. Razer, for example, has made a move. What I kind of lack, of course, is guys like Apple. I mean, Apple, Jesus Christ, Apple and gaming is it's what are these guys doing? I have no idea. They're missing the train, and they're not even missing the train. They haven't even reached the train station yet to miss the train. That's how far they are behind, and I'm looking forward that Apple actually comes in. Until then, of course, Android Master Race. It's kind of funny because we had the whole PC Master Race always going in esports. Now it's kind of will be the similar in mobile where Android is ruling. However, I also don't see much with the other manufacturers that they optimize it very much towards gaming. For them, it's just a side thing, which comes natural because I guess a smartphone has like what a billion functions and a trillion possible apps. They have to be ready for everything. They can't put gaming that much on it. However, it will come. There will be more gaming phones, gaming mobile devices are optimized for gaming. And also in the future, I do see these brands like Samsung, for example, more actively coming into the game space. If you were going to Samsung in 2015, 16 and said like, I have a mobile tournament, they play Arena of something, forget it. It was really, really tough done. The telcos are much more open. Telcos see working with publishers. That's going to increase as well, that via your mobile plan, you have either a special mobile plan for mobile gaming with more traffic, faster traffic, whatsoever. I facilitated a few deals myself, for example, between telcos and trading platforms, e-commerce things, publishers where you can buy your Riot points directly via their payment method, via their devices, their portals, etc. That's definitely, besides all the growth, I predict that telcos will be very, very active in 2020, and the device manufacturers will come after. I think that's enough in terms of predictions. Everybody knows mobile will be not the future, but it will be a good percentage in esports. PC will not go anywhere. It will always be there, but mobile will definitely start taking away a few crumbs of that big cake, which we call gaming and esports, right? Next topic, regions. I partially talked already about regions when I talked about mobile. I think we reached a level of healthy saturation in Europe and the US and also in China. Probably the CIS too, which is partially Russia only, partially intertwined with Europe. You can never really take these regions apart. Everything else, which is not northern hemisphere of the planet, definitely has a lot more infrastructure to be built. There's a lot more potential. A lot of these countries, besides of course politics and other concerns, have a growing population, growing saturation in terms of infrastructure and devices. A lot of these regions are better connected by global offenses such as Facebook's and Google, 4G, 5G. There's a lot of cables built under the ocean, which even make little islands like Australia finally connected to the rest of the esports scene. And by the way, Australia is also nicely growing. It's like sort of the only exception in the southern hemisphere in terms of development and high capital per capita. Either way, when it comes to regions, they will boom, they will grow, but people should not get ahead of themselves. I've seen a lot of people in the last years already investing heavily into India, heavily into South America, and they got a good amount of users, but it only goes as long as you can support it with your investment. And I have yet to see someone who like really establish a good business model available in those regions where you can say like, we're off investment and it's a sustainable model from here on through the consumer, through the brands, through sponsors, and through whatever else. I haven't seen it yet. There might be a few exceptions here and there. So my prediction is, besides the growth, is that a few more people will burn their hands. A few more people will go into those regions and invest a lot and will not make it out. My best advice here would be go into those regions, secure the users early on, brand them early on, get them into your whole portfolio, but don't do all out. Don't poker too high in those regions, because the reality is 10 German users are still better than 1,000 Filipino users, better than 1,000 Argentinian users. It's just a sheer financial reality right now. Goes for Twitch and YouTube CPMs, goes for tournament entry fees, goes for behavior and e-commerce, merchandise, you name it. Anything that pretty much makes money, because the people just don't have money. However, even that will stabilize over time. There's a lot of brands, again, banks, telcos, etc., who become very active in those regions because they see, oh, we're going to be in these regions for the next, 20 years. We need to now get these people in and what's cool and hip. And gaming definitely is on their radar. Now, again, here it comes to sensible esports entrepreneurs to give them the guidance how to do it, how to not do the mistakes we have done in the Northern Hemisphere. So the bottom line is these regions that are named South America with both of the language regions, Latin America, Spanish and Portuguese, Africa, both the MENA part of Africa, the Arabic speaking one, Francophone and Anglophone, the entire continent is developing and quite healthy actually. Sadly, they're getting ignored, for example, by EA. EA makes a global tour, but global means everyone except for Africa, which is kind of sad, you know. I don't know if it has legal or economical reasons, but those guys that push in Africa, for example, for esports, they're being punished by being from Nigeria, being from Ghana, etc. And I don't find it good. I think if you want to be a publisher, if you want to put global on something, then it should be global. It should not be 194 countries and sorry, you're out there. So of course exceptions like North Korea. So I'm not gonna mention that, but I mean, Jesus Christ, Nigeria. It's like one of the richest countries in Africa, and they can't be included in a global series. Anyway, next region, India. A lot of potential. Middle East. I hope it calms down politically and the wars end, because all this stupid bloodshed for nothing but oil and power. If it gets calmer, and even now, there's definitely a lot of stakeholders that are interested in pushing in gaming. They're very much interested in foreign expertise and they bring this in. However, it's a very tribal community, so be aware how you do business. The same goes in India. Very tribal, very opportunistic. And Southeast Asia, honestly, is for me always my favorite region, because not much money, but insane amount of enthusiasm. Absolutely insane amount of enthusiasm. And it's also a very interesting region because you have large communities bundled in single media outlets. Like in Indonesia, I think about 90% of Indonesia are on Facebook. They're not as scattered as we have it in the West or somewhere else. Anyway, so in terms of region, short summary, a lot of them will grow. Don't go too fast into them. Don't go with final end of the food chain products in it. These regions need absolute basic infrastructure being built up. And the best is bring local expertise with you, while of course exporting the foreign expertise, aka us who have done it already many times, and also involve the global players, the local players, such as banks and telcos, manufacturers, etc. There's a lot of companies who want to diversify, etc. So I believe those regions hold a lot of potential, and if we really want to talk about esports as a global movement and start to size the market, we need to size those regions as well. Because right now people talk about a cake, but in reality, what we have discovered until now, the end of 2019, is it's just a fraction of the cake. You know, it's like a loading bar, and we're at 30%. We're not further. We haven't explored half the market yet. Everything is booming and everything is growing in every region. But we don't know where's the saturation point, and those new regions will be absolutely a new frontier. I encourage everyone to explore them, and I myself will continue pushing esports in those regions as well, wherever I get the opportunities and get to work with cool local people, trustworthy local people. Next topic, streaming. Streaming. Oh God, people are so excited about streaming, but I don't even understand where all the fuss is about. Let me have a sip. So with streaming, it's very simple. And I'm not talking about Disney versus Netflix and all those kind of things. That's another streaming war. But yes, we do have streaming wars now in esports with Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and Mixer, and a lot of other names coming out. But honestly, I'm not unfamiliar with this whole topic. We had Hitbox, we had Asubu, and we had Smashcast, and so many names. And I myself, as a tournament organizer, as a business developer, I worked with literally every single one of those names. And it's always the same, coming to market, bleeding into the market, how long they're going to stay. Mostly it doesn't work out. The only thing that convinces me now in 2020 is that the names behind it are so much bigger. Facebook, Google, Microsoft, these are free names with endless amount of money. I mean, Jesus Christ, these people control the world. They're more powerful than Mr. Trump. That's the reality right now. And even Twitch, while Twitch is sort of still that own brand, but let's also not keep forgetting that Amazon is in the background. However, I believe Amazon's angle and upside is inferior to, for example, what Google, Facebook, and Microsoft is going to get out of having a major streaming platform, simply because it's just more synergetic to it. Amazon does a million things, right? But it's going to be very e-commerce and commerce focused. The only good thing is they made a move early and they knew about it. So they got Twitch when it was hot, and it's still hot, and Twitch is not going anywhere. So in terms of prediction, Twitch will be number one in 2020, and it will be in 2021 and 2022. But of course, it's going to be interesting how much market share the others take. YouTube and YouTube gaming is very interesting for me because they had the largest platform. In fact, Twitch/Amazon, one of their worst and stupidest moves was feeding YouTube all this time. So what happened is, for example, in the past, you were a broadcaster in esports. What did you do with your VODs? Your clips, your best of, your highlights? Well, you streamed it on Twitch, you recorded it and pushed it on YouTube. So it's literally, YouTube got how many years of everything from Justin TV to Twitch, of all the VODs flushed into it, and even in a gamer's brain, it's super simple. If I go for streaming, I go on Twitch. If I want to watch videos, I go for YouTube. That's so deep in my brain, even branded, it's really tough to get out. So one of Twitch's best moves was making those clips, these clip plugins and everything. But Jesus Christ, of course, they are far away from having any kind of consumer behavior. Their platform is super cryptic when it comes around VODs and everything. So they're not going to take much of YouTube in that aspect. Anyway, back to the topic. So YouTube extending from normal streaming and VODs into game streaming. Let's see how much money they put in. I don't think they're much under stress because people come anyway to YouTube. They have the advertisers. They sit on a very, very comfortable seat. Okay. With Facebook and streaming and also videos is a new vertical. I think it's in its infancy. In 2018-19, we had a lot of offenses from Facebook going forward, exclusivity, etc. But doing that at the time when the streaming wasn't ready was really a bad adverse effect on marketing. I think now the streaming on Facebook is much better. I like the fact that you already have a profile and everything. You're not anonymous in that sense, like on Twitch. It definitely gives some depth to it, and there's a lot more coming. I think both, also Google and Google/YouTube and Facebook will continue to get streamers in. But I'm not sure about their overall strategy, because yet again, for Facebook, streaming is just a vertical. And it's really tough to see how much they're going to put into it. But they will definitely also take percentages of Twitch. No doubt about it. There's a lot of communities, like earlier in the regions I mentioned, like countries like Indonesia, etc. They're like so heavy on Facebook. Naturally, Facebook and Google have in these regions better infrastructure, better servers, better everything. So there's a lot of guys who like watch the international and worlds and everything on streams on Facebook. So not just the official one. You don't need a license for it. You can't stop people, pirate streaming or just side streaming the event or watching it in a client like in Dota 2 where you can't even send a DMCA. So either way, the bottom line is those two are definitely taking shares of Twitch. Let's see how much focus they're going to put in it. 2020 definitely is going to be a streaming war, but I'm coming back to this point in a second. I don't think that streaming war is bad. I think it helps us to get a better treatment from Twitch. In terms of money, it helps other advertisers to have a benchmarking possible between all those providers. Do I put my ads on Google? Do I put my ad on Twitch, on Facebook, etc.? That diversifies the things. It makes advertising cheaper. But as it becomes cheaper, more people advertise. And as more people advertise, more revenue share comes through to the users. Perfect. Now, one new player is there, Mixer and Ninja and Woo, and shoot me that. Microsoft is for me the furthest away in terms of synergy. Of course, there's the whole Xbox synergy, the strategy around that is pretty clear why they want to do it, and everything else is not so clear to me. A lot of people have their theories and everything, but for me, it has to still crystallize out what their end game is. What I do like is everywhere where Twitch failed, they come in. That's good. Smart people there in their esports department. Of course, they get these big names. Now, the thing is, every time a big streamer comes to one of those platforms, you can take what, I don't know, 50, 80, 20, whatever number it's going to be, away from their communities, viewers, etc., advertisers, consequently can do it. And of course, we have to realize every time a streamer is being signed up on these new platforms, it comes with heavy commitments, heavy payments, and it's not sustainable. Like even the big ones at some point, especially since they're public companies, they have to answer to what they spend versus what they make and what they have in growth. And as long as that imperative in business exists, we know this is not going to go forever. So if you think Mixer is going to keep buying people on like 2023 or something like that, it's not going to happen. By then, they have to, just like in the past, the Super and Hitbox, they have to show, here's our community, here's our organic viewers, this is the market share we got, let's say 10%, and then also their shareholders, they're going to answer on that. So bottom line is, there's a streaming war, but it's not bad for us, it's actually good for us. And I also believe it's good for the platforms, because think about one thing. Twitch, for example, is a top to bottom platform by the way it's sorted. So you go on a, let's say, Twitch/Dota 2. What happens is you're going to see all the top guys in Dota 2. Nobody sees the little shits with like 10, 15 viewers. Nobody has a chance. Unless you're really good at marketing, you host, you get how is it called? Stream rate or like whatever. Like you get a lot of sudden traffic somewhere, or you're involved in a lot of drama, or you're famous as an influencer or as a player or something like that. It's really, really tough to grind your way up as a streamer, because you're somewhere down there with hardly any chance to get up there. So now just think about this. Every time, it's like, like a plant, in gardening. Every time you cut the top, it doesn't mean the plant dies. It just goes wider and more solid in the core. And honestly, I believe what's happening now with Twitch, due to the others investing in the top talents, they should appreciate it. I think they should absolutely appreciate it, because I do believe the gravity they create with all the capital and the talents they suck over, it's not going to outweigh the endemic gravity that Twitch has by a very healthy community, of course with a few hiccups here and there, but with a very healthy gravity. Like my first go-to target for streaming will always be Twitch in at least the next 2 years to come, and not YouTube and not Facebook and not Mixer. It's gonna be Twitch. Twitch is all over the place in the gaming community. So what happens is they cut off the top. More mid-size and small-size streamers gonna come up. Twitch is potentially reacting to these things and also foster a bit more, maybe a bit more revenue share, more incentives, some cool new features. They're technologically definitely ahead in terms of community features, etc. So honestly, while Twitch is losing some of their best names, they're gonna win a lot more, and new stars will be born, and a lot of mid-size streamers will be born who make a solid income. And also for advertisers, it's much, much better. Yes, it's great to spend 50k on a handshake with Ninja, or I spend 50k and I get the entire mid-class, mid-size section of Twitch streamers, diversify myself. It's a bit more management. But in terms of influencer marketing value, I get a lot more than with this one big bang ninja. This whole big bang marketing is dead. We're in a time and age where literally everybody who has 5 followers is relevant for you. So utilize that, and as I said, cutting off the top, having a stronger core on Twitch will also help advertising and will help those streamers. So I appreciate the streaming war coming ahead. There's not going to be a clear winner in 2020 and also not in 2021. Twitch is going to be number 1. But the rest, we will see what they innovate. We will see what they do in terms of community. We will see how long they hold and bleed into the big names they go. And we will see what kind of organic drift comes with it off of Twitch into it. I believe Mixer has the lowest chances. Facebook and YouTube come already with very organic things. So they just have to plug a new product into something existing. So they have definitely an advantage over it. But let's see. So far I was impressed by how the Mixer platform is and how the Mixer platform does their strategic business development. There's probably more to come, and I'm looking forward if they can correct my statement here, and actually I would consider them ahead of, for example, YouTube or Facebook. Let's see. That's about streaming. Very short formats and franchises. So by formats, I mean formats in terms of what kind of tournaments we run. Again, here, and I don't know why, there's a lot of people who forcefully try to innovate, but there are, especially in older titles, we have established already certain formats that are just go-to. May that be by the entertainment value, production costs, time and organization needed, strain on the players, strain on traveling and accommodation, etc. Various factors play in it, online and offline formats. I would encourage that, looping back to federations, associations, etc. I think we should nail a few formats in that over the last, 5 to 10 years were established as good, appreciated by the players, the teams, and everyone else involved, including the community. And we should not try to forcefully innovate in things. We can do this in new titles where things are a bit different, where the tournament formats are different, the games, the maps, the whatever are going to be played differently. But let's not do total nonsense in CSGO. And it brings me to the second part, franchising. My goodness, I hate franchising down to the bone. Okay, that's actually a bit too default of a statement. I hate it when it's done as a clear sports replica. So Overwatch League, for example, the strategy, the evolvement of Overwatch into Overwatch franchise, the gap we had in between where here's the publisher, there's the community, including all the business people. And there was almost a year gap of hardly any communication, knowing what's happening with the title. They lost so much wind in their sails and everything. I think the build-up of the Overwatch League was absolutely horrible. However, it's established. I don't subscribe to those prices. I think the prices are ridiculous. I think they're stupid. I think they're not even sustainable. I don't think there's even a good return of investment in the short future. And the longer future, longer predictions, I have to question how long the games last and how long these publishers can rejuvenate those games. Yes, we have games like Counter-Strike and a genre or a title that's like 20 years old. First version was in 1999, if I'm not mistaken. And then we went through each and every version, but also up and downs, etc., until we are now finally reached CSGO, which is, for the time being at least, the go-to target. Let's see what happens in 2-3 years. The bottom line is, with Overwatch, I'm not confident the viewership numbers hold up. I'm not confident the game sales numbers hold up. Overwatch 2 is just a bigger patch to the old game. So there's a lot of interesting business done around, very much inspired by the sports franchising, but these ludicrous prices brought up also team valuations, because what's the point investing 2 million in a team? That's their annual expenses. They can't afford a freaking franchise slot for it. So for me, one of the most dangerous developments is not just having franchise leagues developed from the get-go with an unproven model, unproven track record of the game. Like, if you would franchise CSGO, let's go for it. We know the numbers. We know it's going to be good. If you would do it in League of Legends, right? It is already there. Then we know it works. There's such a long time we can look at it. If you would do it in Dota 2, which Valve, thanks God, will never do. But then we actually have some numbers. But with Overwatch, I couldn't support it. And the funny thing is Activision, I mean, I can't even say Blizzard, because Blizzard, good guys, Activision, not so much. Instead of learning from the Overwatch launch, they went even further and went more expensive with Call of Duty. And I'm pretty sure they have even more plans, more titles, more franchise, more everything. To make this short, it's too expensive, it's too uncertain, it's a high gamble. And what I don't like about it most of the time is that they're taking, with this pokering, so much responsibility on their shoulder, because if it fails, this is such a big setback for esports as a whole. Not just for franchising. It's not like, oh yeah, tomorrow we just go back to whatever, like a DPC format or whatever, just because franchising failed. No, if franchising fails, that means a lot of investors going to be disgruntled. They're already disgruntled. A lot of teams already shifted their slots, their ownership, etc. This whole house of cards will fall apart, and it probably is going to take us back a year or two in development, if not even more. So while I don't like it, I do hope it succeeds, because esports can't afford a fail of the franchise stuff. Now, me personally, as I said, I'm not a big fan of franchising done the American Activision way, but I do see the upsides in franchising as well. I don't like the forced rebranding and all that stuff. It's totally nonsensical. We worked 20 years to establish certain brands and fandom. Now all of a sudden they force us into a second and a third. And if you have another franchise, in the end you have one team but 5 different brands. Good luck, marketing managers, to bring this into one community and fandom. I don't like a lot of things around this. But as I said, franchising will continue. A lot of brands that were reluctant, they can identify themselves better with the franchise formats. Hence, there's going to be a lot more money, a lot more bigger deals coming in. It definitely helps on the licensing side of things in terms of media rights. When I did sort of the first some media license things, I think in 2012 or so, and we sold tournament licenses for like 5,000 euros or dollars. That was a joke. And then I saw every year it was exploding. You know, every year you could add a 0 at the end of that number. 5,000 in 12, 50,000, 500,000. Now licenses go out for millions. And that's good, because again, TV and the Olympics, the old sports, it's a dying medium, dying entertainment in a sense. It will never completely die off, but it will shrink. All these people, they need this rejuvenation. So the more conform we are with those formats, the better we sell to them, the more capital we get in from them. So that's fine with me. Franchise has its up and downsides. So my predictions for 2020, Overwatch, Call of Duty, due to the prices and all the things I just mentioned, still for me, very wiggly up there. Hard to make a prediction if that's going to be a success or not. I don't think long-term it's going to be a success. And if it's going to be a success, not in the sense that Overwatch League, for example, was the winner and the return of investment wielder, but in the sense that we saw how it's done and not done at the same time, and whatever comes in franchising afterwards, hopefully from another publisher, we can learn from that and do it more sensible prices, more balanced, that there's an active revenue flow to the teams who go out of their way to secure the funding needed to be part of those franchise leagues, and which is also one of the reasons of our team valuation bubble, which we have right now, because no one in their right minds would actually pay such a valuation if it wasn't about these franchise leagues. Anyway, not going longer. Games in general, just short topic on here. What I find interesting about esports is we have not just a general movement towards competitiveness, but also a general esportsification, if you want. So the amount of games that strive toward becoming an esports definitely increases. The amount of games that will fail at that also, but at least they are competitive games. And what I also like is that the other genre, the non-competitive format, which is totally uninteresting for us as esports people, but even they get a lot of ventures, apps, modules, in-game rankings, whatever. A lot of things are getting a lot more competitive. which I believe is a gateway drug in a sense also to esports, right? If you can play Tetris as simple as a rating or ranking or versus someone else over time, even PvE games like World of Warcraft, you race through a dungeon, speed running, racing, whatever. I like this esportsification of the general sector of games, even if they never achieve anything what we know as esports, but it bolsters the whole general section of competitive games, and some of them, this whole pool acts as an incubator, and some of them will make it to esports, but they're not going to be as naive and innocent as our old esports publishers. They're going to be very familiar with how it's done. And also in general game development, what I notice now is, on the one hand, you still have publishers and game developers who are absolutely oblivious, but you have also some light at the end of the tunnel. And the more I talk with guys when I go to GCC or something like that, they have started to actively build in these competitive tools in their games, and they plan it in their budget. The way it used to be in the past was, we develop a game, it's made purely for publishing, downloads, retail, selling, whatever. And then, oh shit, it's competitive. What are we gonna do? Well, fuck, we have no matchmaking, we have no tournaments, we know, no. So what I like the most about now is there's two ways as a game developer. Either you build a lot of structures within your game, or you build respective structures like APIs, for example, so tournament platforms and other actors in the space can interact with you. And honestly, every publisher who doesn't have a proper API, a company that deals with their data and everything, like Riot just has done a deal with Base and all that stuff, please, stop the madness. Have your games flourish and succeed, and all you gotta do is sit a few people there in a room and tell them, please make an API. Closed or open, I don't give a shit. But having still games where in 2019 you cannot interact, you cannot read out scores and everything, it's so ludicrous. Thanks to your incapability, there's of course a lot of ventures from stream scanning to whatever other methods to get tournament automation and other stuff done, but that's not going to be the future. So my prediction on that part, more and more developers will definitely put a thumb on APIs and data in general, and I can just hope that they don't go for some North Korean business style and make these open or semi-open or licensed in a sensible way with a certain threshold, what can be done on a community level, at what point can you not go higher in price pools, like EA has it, Blizzard has community rules, and Valve has certain rules as well. That's something very interesting for me, and I hope technologically the old publishers leap forward and the new publishers adapt it right from the get-go. That's super important. Next topic, investment. Super short. Already talked about team valuation. I think that's a bubble. I think esports in general is not a bubble. So I know there's a lot of people jumping out there. Oh, it's a bubble. It's gonna burst and everything. We're like the tulips of the 21st century. Like everyone who mentions tulips and the word of esports, buy him a tulip and ram it in his face, like down the throat, make them shut up. It's total nonsense. Don't listen to these bubble people. Yes, there will always be some too bold leaps forward and some consolidation, but we will not face a massive burst. There will be consolidations in certain phases and everything, but not, 2020, now all of a sudden all capital is gone or anything like that. It's total nonsense. So in terms of investment, what I like the most and what's my prediction forward in 2020, we have a lot more older funds coming into esports, discovering it. So the list of investors involved in esports, minus the angels and everything, is definitely increased. In 2019, I had a list of 600 to 700 investors involved in esports, and I'm pretty sure by 2020 this list is going to be 1,500, 2,000 funds and names and everything, etc. That's one prediction for 2020. But it's also what I hated the most in the past is these backseat investors who say like, oh yeah, company, you have to be already successful, you have to be like massive amount of community users, you have to be making money like crazy, and I'm always asking myself, if I would be that successful, why on earth do I ask you for investment? Investment is there for two reasons: get the thing started or further, or get existing things, literally put oil on a flame, right? That's where an investment comes in. But I think some of these metrics which they take out of, I don't know what ventures they take it out of, they're so high that I'm like, if my fire is burning that high and that hot, I don't need you anymore. I'm going to wait until next year and you come to me instead of me coming to you. So that's also one of the things I think that will subside. But also, investors going to be educated a lot more. There's a lot of bullshit capital that went into people who were really good at making decks and presentations, but not so good at actually building the companies. If you, like on TwogHub, for example, one of our major products in TwogNation, we have a tournament aggregator, and in that tournament aggregator, we see somewhere between 50 to 60 tournament platforms coming up every year. That's only the platforms, only technologically based URLs, platforms with blah, blah, and all that stuff. 50 to 60 of them come every year and 60 of them go. In 2017, 18, 19, it was even a bit more due to the whole ICO grace and blockchain stuff that will also normalize. But what we see there is that a lot of people take money, burn through it, and have no way forward from there. So both entrepreneurs and investors are going to be a lot more educated in 2020. I help a lot of investors getting this education, not investing in decks, but investing in solid ideas, and checking with people if that idea is even valid in the esports space, because a lot of non-esports people make esports ventures, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, the community doesn't like it, or something like that, which I could have told them before, but of course they only ask those questions after money has burned. So that's one lesson that investors take out and entrepreneurs take out. What I also didn't like is that we had very top-heavy investment in the past. What I just mentioned, that they have ludicrous metrics, or occasions like, oh, we need to invest in a team because we're familiar with it, and there's franchising, so I need to invest 20 million for this and this and that. That's also going to stop. I love very much development, that there's a lot of incubators coming out, there's a lot of accelerators coming out, there's a lot of early stage, and I'm not talking about those bullshit investors that say, oh, we're early stage, and by early stage they mean Series A, right? Of course, I'm not talking about them. I'm talking actually about pre-seed, seed, growth capital, and Series A would be sort of the top off. There's more and more funds coming into the fray with this kind of agenda and philosophy, and that's what esports definitely needs. There's a lot of brain capital out there which waits for good outside forces to discipline them in how to build a venture, everything from accounting to taxes and how to business develop and how to focus and not defocus. All those things come from the outside, plus good entrepreneurs with credibility in esports come, and they get these early capitals, and they get now also tools like accelerators and incubators, which come up like little mushrooms everywhere in the world. Again, here there's a few bad players, and I myself have a few anecdotes to share, not in this video. That's more of a, we have a beer and you can talk about it kind of topic. But it's overall a good prediction. So prediction for 2020, it's going to be more. Investment is going to be a lot more diversified. We have also the big guys coming in. But the big guys have been on the fence, not because they're idiots. There's a lot of people who say like, oh, why is SoftBank not in? Why is blah, blah, blah? Simply because we're too small. As an industry, compared to something else, we're like tiny, super tiny. Esports has a long way to go in terms of growth, until we get really, really interesting for the big guys, especially the big guys who don't care much about a growth vision or anything like that. You got to be big in order to be part of the big boys club, but it will come. I think maybe not 2020, but in the years to come, some of our esports companies will be big enough in valuations, users and metrics and everything, that also the big guys come in and go on a shopping spree. And I think this also plays into a lot of entrepreneurs' hand these days, because some of these guys are quite tired. That's also something that nobody tells you about esports. A lot of these people are grinding for 10, 15, with the ESL founders, for example, for 20 years, not everybody is a restless entrepreneur who goes from one venture to another. There's some who just want to draw a line and sell and get this acquisition done, and then maybe take a few years off, or just be on like a million advisory boards and become an angel investor whatsoever. So I truly believe some big names come in, and it will give some entrepreneurs the chance to go away from their original idea and focus on something else, which I believe also helps in a very horizontal expertise exchange, where successful entrepreneurs then join advisory boards, not just, hey, that guy is from sports, that guy is from entertainment, he's joining my advisory board. I would love to see a lot more advisors, not just being there, like, for example, me, I'm on a lot of advisory boards due to my experience, but I would rather love to be there because I can say, I built a company, I sold it for, I don't know, 50 million, and now I want to share this success. So this is one of the things that will start to happen in 2020 and accelerate moving forward. That's what I have to say on the investment side. I'm involved myself in a few of these acceleration incubation projects, and I will definitely help to bring them, to expand them in other regions, because I believe there's a lot of good brain out there which doesn't find the right dollar to make it a success. So that's something we have to do in order to grow esports. Blockchain, super short about blockchain. ICOs were a bubble. It's total nonsense, right? And I knew it back then, and I knew that out of 100 ICOs, one will succeed, or let's say out of 1,000 ICOs, one will succeed. All those little shit coins and altcoins, everybody told you, okay, this is only for funding. They're not going to utilize the coin much. Everybody told you that. I also, if you go through my LinkedIn comments and story and everything, how many scams there were. People that promised you crazy amounts of innovation and tools and the next big hub and all that shit. Just give us your Ethereum and Bitcoin, and it didn't work out. So the bottom line is, I'm glad the ICO market cooled down. The IEO and STO and whatever else is there never picked up to the same steam. So there are still a few guys out there trying to raise funds and tell you the story of them utilizing blockchain, but it's not going to happen, okay? So what's going to happen is, and it's very interesting, there are some good cases for blockchain. So besides payment, okay, payment is guaranteed, right? Taking in Ethereum and Bitcoin and Dash and whatever else out there as a payment method, Jesus Christ, if you don't have it, get it, right? You're missing out on revenue. It's super easy to implement these days. The tech gets better. You have to have it. But I'm talking about blockchain as in trading things, ownership, etc. There's a few cool things happening on the blockchain game side. Some of them are actually competitive. It's still all a bit clunky. The whole handling of blockchain is a bit clunky, and it's going to take more than 2020 to make it sort of mainstream. But I love how enthusiastic these people are. I'm having an eye on it, and I will help it wherever it's sensible. There's a lot of questions still to be answered, how blockchain in relation to publishers, especially when it comes to item ownership and trades will be done. But even the big guys will not ignore blockchain. But I'm not talking about bullshit ICOs and everything. I'm talking about a blockchain as a means of interacting, chatting, trading, etc. It will come, but not as big and as explosive as people promised you the last 3 years. So 2020, my prediction is very simple. Blockchain, it will be part of gaming as payment, as a few tools here and there. There will be a few ICOs that prove that they raised the money, not just to run away with it, but also build something with it. There's a few names out there in gaming, not many. So that's my prediction on blockchain. Everything else, I wouldn't take my word for it. I don't think blockchain is, as I said, this mass adoption thing. It's a bit like the VR, AR hype we had a few years ago, but I'm coming to this later. Next topic. Brick and mortar. Just 1 second. Brick and mortar is exploding right now. Jesus fucking Christ. I think here we're actually facing a bit of a, I hate this word, bubble. Fuck bubble. A bit of an overseller's growth. So brick and mortar, that means boot camps, performance centers, PC banks, cafes, arenas, trucks, casinos and plugins, other integrations. It's booming right now. Everybody's coming to it. I get at least once a month someone with this idea coming to it. I see at least 10 or 15 or 20 more coming up each and every month. It's a cool thing. I think it's all about location, location, location. You need to be in the right spot to make it a success. Besides all the standards, doing the right things, having the right tag, doing the right marketing, blah blah blah, being endorsed by the local community, working with the local players such as universities, blah blah blah. If you get all this right, then I think it all boils down to location, location, location. So honestly, if I would have to invest in brick and mortar, I'd rather invest 10 million more for a Times Square's, Madison Garden, whatever, major location right under the Eiffel Tower. I don't care. Some prime location where people can come, where tournaments can be held, where there's enough radius of local guys plus tourists and short-term stay people will come. I think that's what it's all about. Some suburb web cafe, it's a cool thing. I don't think it will have much of an impact in terms of the overall growth of esports. It's probably a cool asset. It's probably, again, back to regions. It's probably going to be a lot more interesting in regions where you do not have a high saturation of devices. I mean, here in Europe, everybody has a goddamn PC and laptop and 5 smartphones on top of it, maybe a console just for fun. It's going to be a lot harder to get people there. So you have to innovate a lot more. You have to have your racing simulator, your VR set with those moving pedals and everything. It's really cool. I've just been in one of those here in Belgrade 2 weeks ago. It's a cool experience, but it's something I do for fun, maybe once a month, if at all, right? So that's where these occasions have to score, and then it makes sense. Then, of course, creating formats, working with the publishers who want to have offline formats, so having sort of mini arenas, I think that's really cool. And I don't think it's about space. I don't think we need to have 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 20,000 big fucking arenas, because one of my really straightforward opinions on the whole arena topic is, let's have arenas, specialized arenas for gaming and esports, and that will be a trend also in 2020, a lot more to come. But what I think where also municipalities, investors, and other people like me is going to do bullshit checking are those people with those mega plans. Oh, let's build an esports arena. And in the best case, 1 mile away, there's a sports venue which is not booked out the full year. And you know how it works, right? Usually on government level, municipality level, some idiots come in and they get co-investing, then they build these big venues, then they charge the teams whatnot. If the local team goes in another arena, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, we have way, way, way more sports venues than we need. In fact, for example, here in Europe, if I say I got an event, there's probably 20 venues lining up within a week where I could go for free or with super amazing perks or low prices, right? So we are beyond saturation already in sports. With every Olympic and whatever other shit, we have even more stadiums built for no good reason with no long-lasting program afterwards. So please, for the love of God, let's not repeat this for esports. We don't need big arenas. If I need a big arena, I fucking rent that stupid empty stadium of the local club or whatever. It's plentiful there, and esports people will even drive 5 miles further for another venue. We don't need to build it. However, what we definitely need is specialized, cool venues, smaller communities, cool technologies, ever evolving technologies where people can test new products, new games, new everything, where they can come in together and add a physical layer, a social layer to the usually very online-based community. That's what's going to be good, and that's what's going to grow in 2020. I can only support it. I love it. And by the way, on TwogHub, we just launched a location aggregator, which is like the booking.com of esports, just without the hotel part. We added esports locations. So you can go to TwogHub.com/locations, and you will have all esports locations, all the brick and mortar things, even the trucks like Big Belly and the HyperX trucks here in Europe and everything. We definitely going to have to. By the way, trucks, as a prediction, is also going to grow. We have a huge fleet in China. We have in America a lot of guys from the traditional sports broadcasting bar with mobile production units, but also cool projects by Allied Esports, the Big Betty. Like, shout out to the Allied Esports guys like Greg and Jude. They're really cool guys, really cool, innovative guys. I think there's a lot more space, and I love the trucks because they're also agnostic. If you're not booked out on esports stuff, or you don't have the money to program the truck 365 yourself, then you can still do, I don't know, birthday parties and music concerts and VIP receptions out in the open. I mean, as long as they have electricity and 4G, for example, they can do anything. You can, in the middle of a field, in theory, right? So I find that it's a cool development. It will definitely be endorsed by a lot of people, and I believe a lot more trucks and mobile units going to be out in 2020 as well, on top of the growth we have in brick and mortar space. I just hope we do it in a sensible way, like I just mentioned. Next topic. Marketing. Okay, marketing, I only have one thing to really say. Marketing is not going to change much, which is a sad story. Marketing in esports, we think we're so innovative, but we're actually not. There's most of our marketing and social media guys and everybody who's sort of the front end of all these companies. We adapt quite the structures we have in the traditional brands. I see a lot of brands also utilizing their standards, right? They advertise a granny's birthday just like a CSGO tournament, and it's not good. We need to be better on the marketing front. Essentially, since the 1960s, since TV came out and advertising came up in and around such media, it's cash for logo, right? Some idiot gives cash and another idiot just puts a logo somewhere, or a shout out, or a banner in a stadium or on a broadcast. It doesn't matter, but the whole principle, cash for logo, it never changed. And in esports, we adapted all that sports has, which is also essentially cash for logo, right? Oh, Adidas, give me 50,000 and I put your logo on a jersey, which is not even seen 2% of the broadcast time in a damn esports tournament. Same with like jersey stuff on the side and in the back and all that stuff. Jesus, the brand value is so fucking zero on this one. I mean, not zero, okay? You can still go for it and you should still do it. And it's a good thing to do, but I don't think the prices for it are good. Also, esports is a largely digital space. So if you think just because you discovered influencer marketing, you're innovative and you're a good marketing manager, you're not. You're doing what everyone else does. And I'm sorry, but you're already, 5 years behind the curve. What I think is a lot more interesting for us to see and explore is the full potential of digital marketing, how to prove ownership, how to prove engagement, directly involve the users. My company, for example, develops a lot of technologies around that, like proof of ownership, intertwined generally, but also into esports and gaming and everything. There's no reason other than being conservative or, I don't know, chicken shit of experimenting to not do it. There's no reason not to do it. If you keep pushing the whole marketing philosophy of cash for logo, even if that stupid cash goes to influencer and the stupid logo goes on an influencer's Instagram, it's still cash for logo. So even your referral code or anything like that, it's not innovative. We have done it. So I believe in the future, and this is something I myself gonna lobby for. I see a generational shift in marketing manager. The 40 plus, 50 plus marketing manager goes out, new guys come in, and this generation shift helps us that these guys not just proliferate new technologies within marketing, new ways of marketing, but also that they discover things like gaming and esports. So we have a lot more to grow. So every non-endemic brand, which is not in esports and gaming yet, they're definitely missing out. Then again, of course, not every brand is compatible to this space, but let's assume the volume of those who are compatible. And I really, truly, truly, truly hope that from within, there's either good expertise or that the brand, I mean, if you spend, 100,000 on an ad, you might as well just spend, I don't know, 5,000 on getting some good expertise in, even if it's just a short-term consulting or whatsoever. But there are knowledgeable people who can tell you what is cool, what is not, what is hip these days, what does the community absorb, or what do they more repel. What other funnels, marketing funnels are there besides cash for logo or your referral code or whatever, right? There's more to it, and I really think we profoundly need to innovate on this front. Endemics and non-endemics alike. We have such amazing digital culture, and it's not going to stop there. We're going to become more digital, wider, bigger, interregional. The brands that always have been very strict with their geographical lines, right? You have country managers, region managers, global managers, and everything. Those lines will be washed away, but it becomes one mesh. I can reach with simple and easy things such a whole audience, either pinpoint targeted or very wide washed with an insane range. The bottom line is still, and that's a reality still in 2019, esports and gaming is cheap. Okay, it's absolutely cheap. If you compare it to what you put on Facebook, what you put on Google Ads and whatnot, it's still cheap. But my prediction in this regard is it's not going to last forever. It's going to become more expensive. And once it becomes expensive, then those who innovated have cool funnels, cool technologies, and cool results. Those are the ones who will definitely prevail in the ad war that will definitely come. Once we're so saturated that we're just about as expensive as a Facebook ad, we have to do cooler, better stuff. More than just, we're esports, we're cool, right? That's why you choose us over Facebook ads. No. Right now we're cheaper and we can attract a lot of brands, but let's not stand still. Let's do some cool tech, some cool campaigns, some smart stuff. Look at McDonald's in the Nordics, these are cool fucking campaigns. That's how you do it. So once we have that, I think we can prevail in an ad war that will come after 2021, 2022, etc. Okay, next. I could talk like an hour about marketing, but that's another story. What's next? IPO and co. Super short on this one. More and more companies go public. I don't believe in much of it. I believe the companies that gone public in the past have shown that they have not done it out of the reasons that you should go public with. Often it came out of the reasons that they just were at the end of their investment towers that they have little built. No investor wanted to give them money anymore, so let's go public, raise some more. Others, they failed to get certain investment steps, so what they're going to do, they go public. Then we have these penny stock companies that have just a story but no substance, or they get some initial capital in to buy A, B, C. They tell a story, then raise more on it. But by the time you see your stock climbing to anything, most of the founders and the financial teams in the background have already fucked off to their vacation on Bali with your money. So when it comes to IPOs and public traded companies, stick to the publishers. You can't do anything wrong, despite all the bad things that, for example, Activision does. They're not going anywhere. When it comes to pure esports IPOs, be very careful, do your due diligence, look into it. I mean, of course they are public, they have to tell you those things, but everybody knows, or maybe you didn't know, that's good that I tell you, whatever is public on those documents, it's all just nicely trimmed, Public doesn't mean everything is public. Public often also means the things you should see are public and the other things are conveniently not mentioned or on page 2, right? So what I'm saying is, may that be ASX or Toronto or Nasdaq or anything else, or like the Nordic Nasdaq now with Australis or anything, there will be a lot of good companies coming. There will be a lot of bad, shitty IPOs coming, which I don't see much different than ICOs in the past, just without blockchain. So be careful where you put your money. I'm not saying don't put your money there. There are good targets, but it's really tough. Right now, the esports market is not public ready. It's not like other markets where you have like venture 1 year, 2 year, go public, go big, and everybody's super happy about it to publicly trade the stocks. In esports, that's not the case yet. The companies are not big enough. They don't have enough revenues. They don't have enough track record. A lot of companies don't have the entrepreneurs backing them. There's the investment that's not ready. But I love the fact that we're playing with this. I love the fact that the stock exchanges and the players in there get familiar with esports and gaming. Once they're familiarized with it, I think we have a much easier play going public in the future. But while it will grow and more company will go public in 2020, I don't think there's going to be a major development. I don't think we're going to see some super big names going public. Maybe a few exceptions here and there, but I don't see it. It's the same with the teams. If your team is super successful and you're really on the winning end, which is like, 5 teams in the whole world that are profitable or something like that, it's a dire number for sure out of the thousands of teams that are out there. We need a few more years to consolidate this, get the revenues up, and then we have a track record. And then I believe the going public option becomes a lot more viable to a lot of people. But again, 2020, mild growth, no big surprises there. That would be my prediction. Esports community, here is something I am... originally my topic was esports community and entitlement, but I also brought in esports education and esports career. So let me put all these topics into one thing, talk a bit about it. So, and with entitlement, there's one big issue in esports. I faced this myself. I am myself guilty of. We have a lot of people in esports, our veterans, I don't know, you name it, Red Eye, Thorn, Richard Lewis, Sir Scoots, Jesus Christ, a lot of people out there. These are the vocal ones. There's a lot of people on the backlines, which nobody knows their names, but if you actually know what they have done for esports, it's amazing stuff, right? So I think one of the things which is good, the entitlement, this, how it's called, gatekeeping, whatever, it's good and bad. On the one hand, this close-knit community that also sticks together, it's good because we keep a lot of dirt outside. And there's a lot of little scammy guys who's like, yeah, it's 2020, I'm doing esports, cyber gaming, yeah, give me $1 million. A lot of fucking people like this out there, and they never have a chance, right? If people like Richard Lewis gets their hands on them, they're like, in a second, just gone. They explode, they implode. The downside of this close-knit community is, I believe, we keep a lot of good people out as well. And I believe some of the players out there, by players I don't mean actual athletes, I mean key stakeholders in the industry, opinion leaders, whatever you want to call it. I think some of the esports folks out there should be less gatekeeping, just because we need the next generation. We're not going to live forever. The last year we grinded for esports and entrepreneurship plus esports makes it like double as hard. It's like the Ironman of entrepreneurship, because you're in a young, under-monetized industry plus entrepreneurship, which is hard. Now you combine that too, which is like you're double as fucked, right? But it makes it really tough for the new guys to come, start careers, etc. And it also, if we're too gatekeeping, there's a lot of people who say like, I don't give a shit about your opinion. I go against your judgment, etc. Of course, that mostly ends in them failing, and then this community saying, we told you so, and it just hardens the fronts, and the synergies are not created. So I think we have to find a healthy balance. Keep the dirt out while still keeping ourselves close, our very small community. I mean, I said esports is very small in terms of those people who actually do things. So that's sort of what I predict for 2020, but it's not actually a prediction. It's a wish of mine. But I predict that we need it in order to make the next steps. And that brings me to esports career. I will probably make a separate video at some time, but you can also digest some content of Red Eye, for example, made it, and he also made broadcasting stuff. So there's a lot of good content out there, but there's also a lot of shit. Recently, for example, installed this new TikTok stuff, which I think everybody should be on these days because it's quite amazing in numbers and everything. And I studied the formats and everything, and there's a lot of blah blah people who nobody ever heard about them. They have never done actually tangible stuff, never built a company, and they're giving a lot of fucking advice in terms of esports career. And I'm asking myself, if you don't even have a LinkedIn profile where you could put your career, why on earth would you give other people a career twice? In terms of esports career, there's a thing which I can only say, and that answers all the Reddit questions, which like at least every week there's at least one Reddit thread. How do I get a job in esports? By doing. So by doing doesn't mean you have to volunteer for the next 5 years, invest all your time and money to be then somehow acknowledged by some esports people. But I also have to be super honest that without the volunteering, without the squeezing in, doing things for free, without the pushing more than the usual job, a lot of the people we know today are stars and important people would not be here. So I'm not sure what's gonna be my prediction on it. So I do believe that by doing, even for free, you get in a lot better. So there's people like me who don't give a shit about your gender, your religion, or anything else, right? This is all just noise. I don't even care about your name. All I scroll down on my CV, on the CV that you sent me, is blah, 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 education, gender, blah, blah. I don't even care about your age, unless you're underage, of course, that would be an issue. So, and I go directly to the experience part. And if you apply to my company, but you weren't part of a team or of a company, you haven't volunteered here, you haven't attended this event, you haven't made your own little project, podcast, content, or whatever it is, there's a million things you can do. If you can't show me that you actually have done something, it's going to be really tough to hire you. Then I have to boil it down to the generic skills. But then again, I'm asking myself, why would I put this effort and training into it, right? For someone with generic skills. So a lot of people think that like you have to flip the switch and become an esports career guy tomorrow or something like that. No, just if you already have a job, keep doing this, but do it on the side. Just like you find time to play games, which makes you, in the first place, enthusiastic about gaming, find a time to do something. If you're a sales guy, and right now, during the day, you're an IT sales guy, and then add a few hours every day or every week, and grow sponsorships for your local game venue. I tell you, as an example, if you go on LinkedIn and say like, hello, I'm a sales guy, I actually sell shit in esports successfully, you're going to have 100 job offers in 24 hours. Not a lie. That's how it goes. Like the lack of good sales and business development people in esports is ludicrous. One of the reasons we're getting, for example, all the sports guys and entertainment guys and other guys with expertise in it, because they come with network, they come with expertise, and they come with the ability to close deals. It's about closing. It's not about making nice posts on content on LinkedIn or content. It's not about talking nicely and adding 1 million people on whatever networks or stuff. It's about closing deals at the end of the day. Rather close $2,000 sponsorships for a local venue and put that on your CV than talking about how many tens of thousands of wannabe esports people you have on LinkedIn. Nobody's going to hire you on that. So the bottom line is esports career, the general answer to how to make an esports career, just do it. There's always a local club, a local team, a local something, remote opportunities, internships, volunteering. You can whore yourself out even for free if you're up for it. Or you can also hard negotiate with external skills that you can put into esports and get a career based on that. There's no good reason why you're not in esports in 2019. If you're any good and hireable and you're enthusiastic about esports with some expertise and experience in the past or due to whatever I just mentioned before, you're hireable. If you still don't get hired, there gotta be something wrong with your CV or you're sending at the wrong email addresses. That's the truth. So stop going on Reddit asking how to start a career. Make the career yourself. If you don't have the brains to do that, maybe you're not meant to be in such a turbulent space. Wait a few more years until we're like big corporates and you get hired with or without the enthusiasm for gaming and esports. That's also a reality you have to face. Education. So some of you might think esports education is something that helps this new generation. I mean, right now we have generation 1, which is the descendants of the game generation, the Ataris and everything, right? So 80s, 90s, and out of this spawned a generation of 15 to 20, 25-year-olds who founded companies like ESL, like Ralf Reicher, Jens Hilgers, blah, blah, blah. Those were the first some guys in the end of 90s or even in the 90s who made the first some bigger moves and stuck with it. Making it is easy. Founding things is easy. You know, you can put a lot of fucking names on your LinkedIn and you be the CEO of some local shit that never have ever anyone heard about it. But actually sticking to a company, making a plan come true, growing the company, big or not, it doesn't matter. That's the challenge. So this is the first generation. The second generation came then in the last 20 years. People that came in that are now in their mid-20s, etc. And what I'm a bit concerned about is the next generation, the third generation of esports HR, if you want. Because some of them are under the illusion, I go to one of those esports universities, which, by the way, as a prediction, will grow for 2020 here, my prediction for it. They will go to this university and then they graduate and then they're hireable. But I'm sorry to break it to you, 90% of all the esports degrees, courses and shit what you can do right now worldwide mean jack shit. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Like if you come to me and say like you listen to some guy that tells you how to do stuff instead of actually you doing stuff, then not gonna get hired by me. So one of the biggest key issues, and that's also the basis for due diligence. So listen carefully. If you're on the verge of choosing, if you want to go for an esports education as a degree, a course, whatsoever, step number one, check what's actually getting taught there, right? The program. Step number two, do they have the teaching stuff disclosed? If you find a website, a presentation where they do not show you who the fuck is the fucking professor that teaches you these amazing things in esports, click it away, ban it on your browser, never go back there again. It's most likely full of shit. So because a good degree or a good course or a good education can only be obtained by either people that have done it, which brings me to the next issue, because there are not many people who are actually teaching stuff, because the ones who are successful and could teach are the ones who have good companies. So why on earth would I go and teach at a university if I can have $1 million company? That's a big dilemma in esports education, and it will only become better as more and more entrepreneurs, players, coaches, blah, blah, retire, become teaching stuff, academia stuff, right? So that's one of the issues. So my prediction is it's gonna get better over time. But right now, we have a lot of these guys that don't even show the program, don't show the teaching stuff. And if I see the teaching stuff sometimes, I'm like, who the fuck are you? Some 60-year-old economy professor. That's great. He's giving great economical advice, probably how to build a company, run something, maybe build an in-game economy if you're going for example, game development studies or something like that. But honestly, how much can that guy tell you realistically about esports? And are you hireable afterwards, you know? This is a general issue in the world, by the way. This whole assumption that university gets you into a job or that a job requires for you to be studied. Keep in mind, university is nothing but a tool. It's not a title. It's not you're getting like, boom, boom, you're a knight of whatever academy now. Studying is just a tool for you to work better or to get access to something in the future. You always have to ask yourself, the money and the time you put in there, could you have acquired that tool much better, quicker? Because when you get older, and I'm in my mid-30s now, so I'm not old, but I do realize my body stops being as vital as 25. The older you get, you regret every single year you spend on intermediate sections of your life where you studied 6 years to become that, went to a course to go over there. It's a pure waste of fucking time. If you can do. If you need to study something in order to do it because it's a stupid requirement in your country or by a company, etc., there's two options. Do it and bite through it, or just tell them to go fuck themselves and you find your other way in there. So again, to summarize, this esports education is at its infancies. A lot more universities going to adapt it on many different levels, as a degree, as courses, as extracurricular stuff, tournaments, collegiate sports. A lot of things are going to happen worldwide. This is not just America, not just Europe. It's going to happen worldwide. There's a lot of potential there, but there's also a lot of bullshit there. So please do your due diligence ready, because if I see you studying for 3 years an esports degree by someone who was never in esports, and then you come to me and you think you know your shit, you don't. You just don't, and you're not hireable. People that hire you, they should be fired from their own company. Like, they should hire people that actually grind and do stuff, build a real career. So only if that education is really good, and only if that education offers you practical expertise and experience during that time. So if you did not do agent jobs, sponsorships, business development, tournament administration, any kind of management skills and that stuff, if you have not done any of those things or all of those things in your time during that esports studies or degree, the degree is not worth anything. I work with a few universities and I help them to establish their degree. Some of them are now bachelors and will become masters, and I like them and I supported them for one simple fact, because they have the students do things from day one. They're not just going somewhere listening to a professor, mostly underqualified professor, sadly, but they actually do things. So by the time they graduate, they can say, like, I have done these tournaments, I have done and worked with these players, I have done this and this. And that's when you're hireable. So that's my prediction for 2020. A lot of growth, but also a lot of shit. Be careful with it. But in general, I think it's a good movement and there's a lot of cool things to come out of it. You just gotta be careful with like almost anything in life. Next, that covers all the esports community, education, career. Female esports. Okay, this is a super controversial topic. I don't want to go deep into it. But there's essentially two camps of people. Those who find female esports good and others bad. And now let me explain to you how that all came to be and what I think is a healthy position to be in. As my predictions will grow, okay, no question. We will have more girls and women joining esports, becoming competitive, but it's not going to be in the numbers we desire, and no quota is going to get us there or anything like that, right? There's going to be a lot of destigmatization, so gaming in general becomes a lot more accessible as well. I think these days toxicity levels go down. I mean, honestly, for me, the whole toxicity and getting triggered stuff, it's a bit of an iffy topic, because I also believe people need a natural, a good amount of skin in real life as well as in a game. If you cry in a game over someone calling you a retard, good luck in real life, you know. Good luck when you join the first company, some big intra-corporate politics, you know, where one department fucks with the others or your boss cheats with your whatever. Jesus Christ, life is hard. Absolutely hard if you can't have it in a game. But besides that, like the absolutely endemic toxicity, which is mostly to drive people out, to make people feel inferior, that is definitely something that is a gatekeeping mechanism, and it withheld a lot of women in the past from joining gaming. I think that will gradually decrease over time, so the overall numbers of women will increase. The competitive element, I could talk hours on that, why not many are joining. It will slightly grow, but that's it. Back to the two camps. Two camps, we support it, we don't support it, and there's this one camp we support it, but they support it in a sense that they support extra female formats. So it's like in sports, right? You have running and swimming and kung fu, you have it for men and for women. Now here comes the issue for me as a scientist. Like, I was raised in a scientific family. I don't believe in any spaghetti monsters in the sky. For me, everything has to have a reason, or else I don't believe in it. There's no faith I have in anything. It needs to be explained to me. So one of the biggest issue in esports is data around this topic, as well as many other topics, but we don't know as to why and what the data around women is. We don't know why, for example, a woman might be better or worse in an aspect of the game. There are studies, and I read a lot of them, and they go from reaction speed to 3D vision and socio-political things and whatnot, but none of them are really conclusive. None of these data strings are really pulled together in one entity where I could say, like, yeah, it's justified that women have their separate tournaments, because I don't believe so. I truly believe that I think we should, if possible, aim for a homogeneous community as much as we can. And now here's the dilemma. There are people out there who will push separate female tournaments for the reasons that they say this helps the female players to become competitive. On the other hand, there's also a reality which we have to face in business. A lot of brands which have female targets, that's also going to be good, because why on earth would I have a very male dominated tournament sponsored if I have this female tournament where I can put my, I don't know, whatever, lady shaver or some typical women product, or like something around the period, you know, like some hygienic products or smells or whatever, some girly stuff as I guess many people describe it. But there's definitely a funnel for these brands that would be interested in these formats, and all these tournament organizers that say like, oh no, we're like super philanthropic, we do it for the good of women and everything. Fucking bullshit. You'd also do it because there is the reality that there is a market for it. It's a niche currently, might stay a niche in the future, but there is separate brands that go for it, and that is a niche you settle in. And everybody who denies that fact is just full of shit. So the dilemma with this is, until the point we actually know that men and women are different in terms of gaming, and not just by stigma, not just by other gatekeeping mechanisms, until we have that fully conclusive, I don't see a reason why we should have separate formats. And furthermore, I don't see why we should have it the other way around. If we have female-only tournaments, why would then the male tournaments be inclusive? Why would they not just be male-only and stuff like that? It gets you in a whole lot of trouble around this topic. Of course, the other people, the other camp is then the ones who just say like, no, we don't help women at all, blah, 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 they're just too stupid. So each camp is full of idiots. And I believe as this topic gets discussed more and more, the more female stars we have, sometimes intertwined with also transgender issues and discussions around that, the more this topic becomes discussed, I think we settle in 2020 and the years to come in a more sensible way. I saw one interview, I forgot the name, but it was on Richard Lewis content, and I was a female Counter-Strike player giving her opinion on it, and she said like, well, she strives for a homogeneous community, but right now she appreciates formats that give women the opportunity to play. And I think that's how it should be handled. The question what I raise is, and that's also for 2020 as a prediction, but also the years to come, once we have established these female-only tournaments, when do we stop? Let's just assume, fast forward 5 years, we make these female tournaments, they're a quota and an incentive at the same time. We raise the bar to say, let's say we have 20% female competitive players. I don't know if that happens, probably unlikely in the next years to come, but let's just assume for the sake of thinking, brainstorming on that issue, let's assume that would happen. What happens next is, when do we stop? Will we always continue running parallel women formats, while at the same time we have a global and a homogeneous, both gender kind of formats when it comes to world championships or everything? Or do these formats, which we now see as help, be the demise of women because it leads to gender segregation in the years to come, not 2020, but the years to come, like back to the federations who, you know, suck too much with the IOC and everything? What if these guys also get the ideas that, oh, women are totally different than men in gaming, even though there's no 100% data on it, and then all of a sudden the Olympics or whatever other format or governing bodies starts making this a permanent thing? So we literally kill the chance today that in 5 to 10 years from now we're going to have proper format with equality between both of the genders. That's for me a big issue. I don't have a correct answer. There's like 5 different issues, multiple camps. I believe 2020 is definitely we continue this discussion. We're gonna have more female formats. We're gonna have, standalone formats. We're gonna have more inclusion, lesser toxicity level, so the amount of female gamers will go up, but also the amount of competitive athletes who are female will definitely grow, but not by crazy amount of percentage. And I believe we should talk in about 1 year again how that developed, because it could go in many different directions. For me, at this point, with the data available, with me looking back also in the years where for example, I organized female-only tournaments like 5 years ago already. We had it 15 years ago already at LAN parties, where we had a separate section where we had lighter games for women and stuff like that. I know how that sounds these days, oh my god, you're such a misogynist bigot. It doesn't matter. That's how it was back then, right? We had women just play, I don't know, less hardcore stuff. They didn't play Counter-Strike and Unreal Tournament. They had some, I can't even remember the games. But that was just the reality we have. So I have this experience, and I appreciate the development we have right now. But 2019 is too early to tell. 2020 is going to be too early to tell. At some point, there will be this bifurcation in which role we go. I truly, truly hope with all the things we do in standalone formats and everything, we will take the route that we see the esports community as one, not by region, not by gender, not by sexuality or any other metrics, just gamers. If at some point we established, due to scientific facts and other economical realities, we have to segregate the communities, okay, but then let's also run it parallelly, and not like the bullshit we have to do now in sports that 100 years later, with emancipation coming and everything, we have to now go through all these campaigns of equal pay, like with women's soccer, right? Like the American soccer team, they can't get shit together, never win anything. The women, they win everything, and now they go for they have to go on an equal pay campaign, and I think it's about time. But then again comes also the economical reality. If we create standalone formats, they will always be less watched. Like, there's not, in my predictions, there's no future I can see where I see female-only tournaments having relevant enough numbers compared to the general formats or male-only formats. So we have to somehow pair all these things, but I truly wish that we don't segregate, we don't divide only where it's necessary and only where it's 100% underlined by data and or community wish. If the majority of women wants to be alone in their own formats, so be it. Like, I'm not anyone who tells women what to do. I will stay in a very objective position on this. I will observe it. There's a few ventures out there who focus now only on girls gaming. There's festivals, there's LANs, there's online tournaments, even though who can check what gender the player is. It's also another issue that, the girls have to have streams on to verify the gender and all that stuff. It brings integrity issues, whether there's a whole box of Pandora to be open. I just hope. So it's going to be better in 2020. All the things I just mentioned. But it's too early to tell in which direction it gets. That's female esports. VR, AR, I get that question like a million times every month. VR and AR will not in 2020 become any major esports. And that's simply because the definition of a competitive game, which is considered esports, one of the major criteria for that is massive community. Massive community, not just the ones who play competitive, but also the ones who are crazy enough to watch them and who go and join teams and cheer for teams and buy merchandise. The difference between a competitive game and an esports is this entire industry cloud around it that makes it an esports. That's what makes an esports, this entire industry around it. Just because you have a game that you can play 2 versus 2, 3 versus 3, you're not a fucking esports. This whole industry around it makes it. And now coming back to VR and AR, it's cool in the brick and mortar locations, which I talked earlier about. It's cool as a gimmick, as a party gag. It's becoming more and more mainstream that a lot of people buy the stuff for home, but I also see a lot of use cases where they buy it, never use it again. There are a few cool games coming out, which was one of the biggest issue, that we had the tech, mostly expensive tech like the goggles and Oculus and everything, but we had no content for it. Where are the games? Where's the programming for all this entertainment? That's catching up now. I tested a few VR games, and I honestly can see how this becomes competitive. But now here we have the issue. The masses are not there. It's just like with drone racing. It's cool and everything, or robot fights. It's cool, but it's never going to be like that super big mainstream thing So AR and VR is going to be included in terms of games in the future. Not 2020. I don't think there's going to be any major big boom. I think the hardware prices have to go down. That like literally everybody in Europe or every second gamer has some VR stuff at home. It has to be as common as a smartphone. Then it becomes, I think, a bigger chance. But until then, there's a few pioneers. I think, for example, the guys from Beat Saber, they're doing cool stuff. They're doing tournaments. They combine the venues. They make cool leaderboards and everything. It's a cool development. It will grow in 2020. But if you expect some major VR boom and you become a multi-trillionaire of VR esports, forget about it. Just kill that dream, bury it behind the house, come up with a new idea. Don't waste investor money on it. And investors, everybody who invests now in VR with such applications or similar ones, you're not investing for your return of investment 2020. If so, rethink. If you have a longer strategy, I might be with you. I truly believe that developing the technology now, innovating the technology with various other applications outside of gaming is a cool thing. One thing I also want to mention is VR, AR as a tool within gaming in general. Like Pokemon and similar, like augmented reality, definitely has a place, definitely will grow. 5G will help, more mobile gaming will help with that as well. But again, I'm pretty sure the majority of people that play Pokemon play without the AR factor. I never saw any numbers actually on this one. Or is there a survey? Someone sent me a survey on this one. But I do believe that more games will implement it. That's a cool thing. Brick and mortar, I think if you're an esports venue, you definitely have to have VR in there. And there's one more thing I can think of, and there are a few cool tools like virtual arenas, virtual analysis tools where you see, for example, your map from bird's eye and you can move it, having meetings with it, potentially for remote training. I do believe there are some side applications outside the gaming, the viewing, the everything where VR becomes interesting. I would invest in it in probably 2020, but again, don't expect mass adoption and major revenue streams from it just yet. But I do believe it's just something that will be there, will be part of it. It's just like with blockchain, right? At the beginning of it, everybody told you by tomorrow you're going to drink blockchain out of a cup. That's how essential it's going to be, replace water with blockchain. The same was with VR, right? Everything is going to be virtual. You're going to go poop with virtual goggles. Might all be true for 20 years into the future. The reality right now, all of those techs are cool. They will have some niches. There will be some lower market share in the entire space. There will be some cool applications, some more innovations in the future. But as it becomes cheaper, it might grow. But esports will be fine without things like blockchain and VR for a long damn time. So that should not be your major bet, only if you really have a solid case. That's my prediction for 2020. Yes, one last thing, and I know the video is very long, but again, people ask me all those questions. So here's a video with the later also timestamps where you can go through all of those things, so I don't have to answer it. Human rights, racism, and other things. China, as well as other regions, Middle East. This is something very interesting. So, I mean, we live in a day and time that no matter what political camp you're part of, you will be part of one. So what I'm saying is you cannot be impartial anymore. You cannot be neutral. And not because you cannot be objective, just because the internet and politics around it is made these days in two camps. It's a totally binary thinking, which is hilarious because we're in a digital age, in a language spoken in binary, and our thinking becomes more and more binary, even though I would have hoped in 2019 as a race we're more enlightened, but sadly we are not. So no matter what your specific political opinions are, you will be put in a camp. And that brings you also in business into various issues. So there are some realities that you as a business person has to face. As an esports business, as an esports entrepreneur, you have to be compliant with the esports community, which is very toxic, picky, and the vocal tip of the iceberg is Jesus Christ, are they judgmental. There's, of course, the silent part, which sometimes is the majority. They might adopt their product, but still, the opinion building top vocal part, you got to comply with them in one form or another, or they're going to eat you alive. That goes from top influencers down to just a guy on Twitter who just tweets 5 times a week. So that's one reality I have to face as an entrepreneur. And then comes the agnostic business reality. So for publishers, for example, it's absolutely impossible to ignore China these days for 2 reasons. A, you need to be in China because it's an expansion target, just like Africa, just that China is super big, heavy, massive amounts of money, and it's a separate region, so you need to have separate subsidiaries there, partners, blah, blah, blah. But you cannot ignore it if you want to grow your revenues. That's number 1. And the reason number 2 is because also China, if you don't come to China, China comes to you in one form or another. And I dare you to check between every company right now, public, not public, funds, investment, blah, 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 who of them are in China or who of them have capital from China, bring it into the West. And that's just the capital side. How about Tencent? Tencent is like a monolithic structure. And if you think they're stopping there, think again. Tencent is going to consolidate power just recently with the federation, with the games, the publishing. They literally own Riot Games, various other things, right? Streaming. They're going to be involved in brick and mortar. They have hubs, blah, blah. So they control every aspect of gaming apart from the governing body, which now, for example, with the federation, they also put in place. So they have directly a funnel to the government and influence there. And then 10 years or 5 years forward, you probably have in Washington and somewhere else also a lobbyist sitting, not from the NRA, but from the gaming space. So that's the reality we're facing. One issue with this is, of course, if you deal with a very opinionated community and you make a deal with Bahrain, like BlastPro makes a tournament over there, and yes, there are human rights concerns with almost every country in that region. If you go with China, of course, human rights, big firewall, etc., you can come up with all sorts of a long list of political things. The same if Epicenter or DreamHack that I, for example, we organized in Moscow, etc. In theory, you can also come up with Russia being a problematic country. But then again, if I would ask a Russian what they think about America, well, they could also come up with a list that, for example, I don't know, America has been about 95% of their existing time in wars, caused suffering and bombing everywhere in the world, manipulating governments, economies, blackmailing via trade and whatnot. Everybody can come up in every country with insane amounts of bad things, because that's what governments do. Governments are evil organs which we put in place so we can think better of ourselves while they do the dirty work. That's how governing in the Western world works, and everywhere else too. So here comes an issue, the balance. Where do we do business? With who do we do business? And here I have to bring people into reality. While there will be a lot of naysayers out there, don't go to Bahrain, don't go to Dubai, don't go to India, don't go to China, don't go to Brazil, they have now a right-wing president, blah, blah, whatever reason, people will still do it. The economical imperative will be there. So my prediction for 2020, there's going to be a public branding war about human rights, global warming, religious stuff, Republicans versus Democrats, right versus left, up versus down, and you cannot evade this. So if you think that in 2020 you don't need to be politically aware of your region, of your business partners, etc., you're mistaken. My prediction for 2020 is that I think every company out there, as sad as that sounds, has to be political in the sense of at least awareness, if not even taken aside. And again, back to my point number 1, you will be assigned a camp. You cannot be the third party. You will be 1 or 0. It's a binary system. So whatever you do as an individual, as a company, someone out there will assign you to a camp. You're bad because of that, or you're good because of that. And then depending how much votes and compliant opinions you get on Twitter, that will become your public opinion, and there's not much you can do about it. You can blast a lot of shit into advertisement, you can whitewash a lot of things, but in reality, the esports community, which is naturally very opinionated and judgmental, they will judge you. You gotta be careful. I think a healthy balance has to be there. Honestly, I don't even want to go deeper into this topic because I could talk probably, there's 195 countries in the world, and I can tell you a lot about each and every one of them, from business to the political things. 2020 has to be a year of awareness, a year of picking camps, and a year of skilled public relations and community building and interacting with community. If you do ignore your community, and if you end up in the wrong camp at that time of the year, that might shift. Next year you might be the good guy for doing that, while this year you're the bad guy for doing that. There is nothing you can do. There's no good thing you can do. There will always be right or wrongs, and the balance act for entrepreneurs around racism, gender question, transgender question, LGBT, religion, human rights and locations, how to treat players, payment of employees, which is also gonna become a very open topic in esports, right? I mean, there is no Glassdoor like structure for esports yet, because if a lot of people are embarrassed about how low they get paid in esports, but that will also come in the future. So there's various things where public relations and these sensitive topics around politics and the other things I named, that's going to be super important as a company. If you can't handle this, you can have major investment, amazing product, you're super motivated, but you get shut down by Twitter bullshit. You're not going to sell because people branded you as that guy who's going in bed with a sheikh of Hamudistan who kills their people, or whatever other story they pin on you. But the reality is, just be careful. Pick your partners wisely, but also don't say no because there's an ultimate pitchforking crowd on Twitter that prevents you from doing business. Just like Blizzard around Hong Kong will not stop doing business in China, but they had to be careful around the fact that you just can't ban players based on some hoax reasons, like that he phrased free Hong Kong or something like that on a broadcast. The backlash is insane. The stocks are going down, and this is why I actually like public companies, because we as a community, we still have the power to fuck with them. If we don't buy their shit, if we boycott their shit, their stocks are going down, and then all of a sudden they also rethink their China policy or anything like that. And it doesn't have to be my opinion or my China policy. I have an opinion on almost anything in life. I don't endorse many of the Twitter opinions or that of Blizzard Activision. I think somewhere in between is probably the good way, but that's just me. I'm a compromise guy when it comes to finding a position. Anyway, I think this is very important, and it's good that we talked about. The video is already way too long. I'm gonna put the timestamp on it. Thanks for listening. These are my predictions for 2020 and a few opinions and anecdotes on top of it. For TwogNation, of course, we keep doing what we're doing, especially TwogHub. I'm super proud of it. We have our tournament aggregator where the user can find every single tournament in the world instead of having to Google their way through or word of mouth. We have done the same for location aggregator now, and we have 3 more aggregators which we want to launch in Q1. Our tournament platform is used by a lot of partners now, where we reverse the model of the Zuckerbergian universe, where you give users to someone, then they fuck you over and they charge you to, get contact with your users. So we reversed that model, and I liked it a lot. And of course, our social network, the Gamer's Passport, is, I hope, something in 2020 becomes something that you're not just on LinkedIn and on YouTube and Twitch, but you also have to be there. It aggregates all your data together. It becomes sort of your business card, it becomes like your passport. That's why we created it, and we develop a lot of tools around it, like donations, pay to chat, team finding, scrim finding is now launching in January. We have major clients using our engine as well. So 2GHub not just means one platform, but technology behind a lot of platforms. You didn't even realize you're actually using our technology. Job finding, I already said. But career planning, Fiverr, like, you know, offer your services like you're a commentator. If you're an influencer and a commentator, you're not on TwogHub, you made a mistake. Now join. So all those things we build, and that's really cool. I like that TwogNation is very agnostic with our agency, with TwogHub, and our tech ventures here in the background. That keeps my mind always open to many other opportunities in the space. That's why I can make such long videos about so many topics instead of just being pinned down in one niche. So that's what's coming for 2020. So feel free to reach me out. Heflamoke is how you find me on every social media and channel and everything. LinkedIn, of course, for business and various other things. Feel free to join on the platform, befriend me, write me there. There's many things to get in touch, and you will definitely get an answer, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video. So that's 2020, what's to come in esports. See you in 2021, and yeah, let's see with how many things I was wrong or right. That's gonna be interesting to see. So that being said, peace out. Stay honest, make good business, check your business partners. We've done all the mistakes. We got fucked more than once. Don't repeat our mistakes. And if you have to, learn right after the first one. Don't repeat that at least. So all the best for you in terms of business and health in esports. It's going to be great. If you chosen esports as a career, as a place for your venture, you have not done a mistake. Yes, there's a few more hard years to come for being undermonetized, for having to justify yourself, why you're doing useless things where people play games, you know. I listened to this shit for 20 years. I'm still here. I'm doing very well. And I will probably see another 20 years that many other people join this movement, get successful companies, have entry careers, become big players, and that also non-endemics embrace this as a movement, which it is. So that's what I'm gonna do in the next 20 years, and I hope you join me. And then if I'm disciplined enough and not too lazy with the stupid content creating, then maybe every year I should make such a video in terms of prediction of the next one. Let's see where this goes. I'm probably gonna miss next year again, so goodbye.